Oh, hey there. I'm Nirav, the CEO of Bambi. What is Bambi? Only the slickest, easiest to use, most powerful NEMT dispatch and scheduling platform there is. What makes Bambi so great? Why don't I show it to you? This is a demo account of 6 vehicles. You can see there are 6 columns here on the dispatch calendar. So in the first column, we have this driver named Eddie driving this vehicle called Tripmobile, and he's available from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. on this day, June 1st, and so on and so forth for all 6 of these drivers for the day. What we have on the left side of the screen here is 41 trips that have come in for this day, June 1st. Now, I want to make sure that each trip gets assigned to one of my drivers. So I'll assign this trip to Courtney, for example. So that trip moves from the left side right onto Courtney's schedule. Now, I can keep doing this one by one, taking these trips from the left and assigning them to the drivers on the right, which is simple enough to do, right? But the better thing to do is to select all, and you see this green button at the bottom? Run Bambi Run. So I click that, and I'm gonna run this for all 6 of my drivers. And now, in about 10 seconds, Bambi will figure out the best way of assigning all 40 trips to my 6 driver schedules, such that we're fitting in the most trips, and my fleet is spending the least amount of drive time to be able to do all those trips. So Bambi's running thousands of calculations, and it comes up with this suggestion screen about where it thinks we should place all the trips for the day. Now, most of these suggestions are blue because they're newly assigned, but I had actually already assigned 2 trips before hitting Run Bambi Run. So one is this light colored trip. Bambi saying, hey, this trip for Gerald was already under driver Ben. We should leave it there. And this purple one, well, it's purple because it's a reassignment. Bambi saying, hey, this trip was on Courtney, but we should reassign it to Billy because that's what's more optimal for the fleet. And in the not assigned section, there's nothing because all the trips got assigned. So I'm going to hit this green apply button to apply Bambi's suggestion. And now my drivers can open the Bambi Driver App on their phones, and they'll see, hey, look, here's the 9 trips that I have to do for this day. And you see how this trip for Bluebird is under this driver, Courtney? Well, what if I want a different driver to do that trip? I'll just click and slide it over to Ben, for example. So this is all it takes to do dispatch and scheduling. Now, all the trips that you're seeing here are mostly just blue. That's because this is some future day, like tomorrow. But when it's actually day of, this turns into a living, breathing view of your day in real time. So you notice how these trips at the top are grayed out? That's because they've been marked as completed by the drivers in the Bambi Driver App. These green trips are in progress right now. And this yellow one, well, this driver, Cheryl, she's gotten delayed en route to the pickup. Bambi knows she's going to be late because we're tracking the GPS of all your drivers' phones in real time. Bambi knows this is where Cheryl is. This is the pickup location she's got to get to. Here's the distance, the traffic. Cheryl's not going to make it on time, so Bambi automatically turns that trip yellow. And that means that over the course of a day, what it actually looks like, and this is my favorite part, it looks like this. You can see here that these trip boxes are getting longer in real time if the driver's taking longer to do a trip. And the colors are automatically changing based on the real-time status. So it's not just what you scheduled and dispatched, it's what's actually happening, which is pretty darn cool if you ask me. Now, we of course have this map where you'd be able to see your vehicles moving around in real time. Frankly, people prefer to stay on the dynamic dispatch calendar because that tells you everything you need to know in real time and more. Do you work with facilities? Do private pay? Let me show you something cool here. This is your team page in Bambi. You can have owner user types, admins, dispatchers, whatnot. One type of user is the facility user. What that means is you can say, hey, I'm going to add a facility user named Sally May, for example, because she's the transport coordinator at facility DEF, for example. So you give Sally this partial login to your Bambi, and it lets her do 3 things. Number 1, she can put in trip requests directly here for your business to do. Number 2, she can see the list view of trips, but only the trips for her facility, facility DEF. And number 3, she can track those trips happening in real time on the map. Facilities love this because they can order rides to your business and track them in real time with ease. And you notice how there's this red number 3 badge on trips? Well, that's there because there are 3 pending trip requests from Sally. She requested us to do this trip and this trip. And she can see in real time whether we've accepted or rejected her trips, which we can also do from the dispatch calendar. How do you get paid? You need to do invoicing, process credit cards. Let's go to Bambi's billing section. This is where you can do invoicing and credit card processing. All of your trips are in Bambi, so you just select these particular 4 trips, for example, and Bambi makes you an invoice that you can PDF and send to a facility or person. And I can click this Pay Invoice button here and actually run the card that I have on file for whatever facility or person is going to pay for these trips without even leaving Bambi. By the way, for billing, if you use QuickBooks, you'll notice there's a cloud download icon on the right side of every invoice. You click that and it gives you a CSV file of that invoice that's in the QuickBooks format. So you can just take that file and throw it right into QuickBooks. How do you add a trip? Well, let's click this Add a Trip button in the top right. In fact, that Add a Trip button, no matter where you are within Bambi, it's always there in the top right. So I'm going to click Add a Trip, and there's just 6 pieces of info that you need to put in to add a trip, and they're all marked with a star. So number 1 is the passenger. So let's make a trip for Anita. There's the payer. What date is the trip for? The addresses, and the pickup time. Now I can put in an appointment time and Bambi will generate a pickup time that makes sense based on the distances and traffic. And that's it. I can also click this $sign and have Bambi calculate the price of this trip based on the rates I have in the system. That's a pricey one, so we're definitely going to do it. And we can also click this button in the bottom left to make it a round trip. Bambi just made the second trip leg with the addresses flipped. I'll just put in a pickup time here, and I can go ahead and save these trip legs. And that's all it takes to create trips in Bambi manually. Now, another way to add trips in Bambi is to click this upload button on the trips page. And I can say, hey, you know what? I want to upload a spreadsheet of trip information. I just throw that spreadsheet right in here, and all the trips are in Bambi. And the third way, of course, is if you work with a broker. Now, Bambi has API integrations with the leading brokers across the country, so those trips will just automatically flow into your Bambi account. How does Bambi price trips? Well, if you go to the pricing section here at the top, what you can do is say, hey, you know what? For a particular payer, be it a facility or broker, for wheelchair trips, these are my rates. I charge a base fee of $50, a loaded mileage rate of this much. Any types of fees that you have or rates, you can put them in Bambi, and that's what Bambi uses to calculate the price of your trips. Simple as that. How easy is Bambi for your drivers to use? Let's take a look at the driver app. I've got a 1-minute video that runs through it. So this is a driver starting her shift. She's going to confirm her vehicle. She's going to do an inspection of the vehicle. She'll see her trips for the day, and then she'll sign to start her shift. So now she's in her shift and she sees her first trip of the day. She'll tap Start Trip. Then Google Maps or Waze or Apple Maps will route her to the pickup, and she'll tap I'm at pickup. Get the passenger, start transporting. If you need to collect signatures, right here in the driver app. So that was the driver's signature. Then she'll tap I'm at drop off, collect a passenger signature. Again, if you don't care for signatures, you can turn it off for a particular payer, and then finish trip. That's it. Then the driver would go and do her next trip. That's it. So how do we add drivers, vehicles, shifts? Simple as this. To add a driver, you're going to create a new user who's an associate, and you're just going to put in their contact info here. Then you're going to go and make that person a driver, which just means that you put in their license info and you put in what skills they have. Like, can this driver do wheelchair? Can they do bariatric passengers, whatnot? That's it. And they're a driver in Bambi. For your vehicles, you're going to go to the fleet section. And similarly, you're going to just put in the basic info about a vehicle, including its overnight storage address, and you're going to put in what capacities does it have. Can it do ambulatory? Can it do wheelchair? How many? Boom, your vehicles are in the system. And then when you need to actually make shifts for your drivers driving vehicles, you're going to go and say, hey, you know what? Van 15, I want to put a driver in van 15 for this day. So let's put the facility max in there. And he's going to be driving this vehicle from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. on this day. And I just saved that. And now there's a shift from facility max in there. And on the dispatch calendar, I can see that, yep, there's that shift there for facility max from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Maybe I want him to work longer. So let's extend his shift until 7 p.m., for example. I can do that right from the dispatch calendar. Boom. Do you want your passengers to get text message reminders? Let's go to the passenger section here. So for any passenger, I can open up that passenger record and say, hey, allow text messages. So now this passenger, every time there's a trip for him, he'll get a text message reminder the night before the trip and when the driver is 15 minutes out from pickup. You need to download reports of your trips. Here in the trip section of Bambi, there's a download button in the top right. Click that and say, hey, you know what? I want to download all the trips I've done between February 1st and, I don't know, let's say today, February 18th. When I hit this green button, I'll get a spreadsheet report saying, hey, for every trip I've done in between these dates, there's going to be a row, and there will be columns for every single piece of information I'd possibly need to know about these trips. If I want a condensed report, I can even get like a simple PDF report that I can send to a broker or any payer about the relevant information about this trip that people would need to know about. You need to chat with your drivers. Click this chat button in the top right, and this is basically an internal messaging tool. Dispatchers and drivers, any groups of people within your organization can chat with each other. For example, Charles is awesome. I can have groups of drivers, groups of dispatchers and drivers, and everything in here is HIPAA compliant. So you can even put in patient data in here. Let's say I want to add a payer to my Bambi account. I just go to this payers section here, and this is where all of your different payer organizations are. So let's say we want to add a facility called Nursing Home ABC. I'll go and say, hey, this is a private payer. And next, save. And now I can go and see that we've got Nursing Home ABC right here. And I can go and add a pricing model for them if I need to. Similarly, for a broker, I can go and add a payer and say, hey, I'm going to add a broker named Broker Big Money. So payer type is broker. I go next, save. And now we've got Broker Big Money in here. That's all it takes. Getting started with Bambi is as easy as the app is. Just go to hibambi.com, fill out your contact info. We'll reach out, immediately get you set up. We can even get you going same day if you want. What are you waiting for? hibambi.com.